recording now. And hi to you guys. It's good to see you back. And I'm glad I got my voice back a little bit. Um, I don't know what was going on. I mean, I had laryngitis for over 3 weeks. So,
Wow.
yeah, isn't that weird? So,
Yeah. Well,
and
glad
I
to
don't know
have
what
you
you can
back.
do for it. It just suddenly clears up. And anyway,
Herbal tea and honey.
I think, yeah. Oh, there you go. That might be the answer. Um, I guess on the horizon, there's something happening on November 5th. And
Coming up soon.
I thought we might talk about that um, in the next 2 weeks because, what's the scuttlebutt in Arizona? And I'll tell you what's going on in Florida. And then we can talk about, or you can talk about if you want to start out nationally, what's going on. I wanted you to notice the background in my
Yeah, I was
background
going to
in that.
say,
You
space
recognize
mountain.
you recognize that, right?
Yeah.
I
Oh,
thought that
yeah.
was such a cool picture that I adopted it for the show tonight. So yeah, I thought that was a stroke of genius. The visit to McDonald's and the work and everything. So hats off to President Trump for doing that. It was great.
Well, you know what's so cool about President Trump that nobody can, I don't think, it is, I believe he's authentic.
Yeah.
He is who he is, and he's comfortable with the common man and woman.
Oh yeah.
He's he's not intimidated by the rich and powerful.
Yeah.
But many of the rich and powerful, you can just tell they're not comfortable with Joe, mom and pop,
Yeah.
Joe the plumber or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Hey, those are Donald Trump's people.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Um,
Well, he looked at
and
that one car, and that one lady says, "Well, we're just ordinary people," and he says, "No, you're not ordinary people." It was such a great reply to him.
yeah, no.
He doesn't look on anybody as ordinary people, especially the American people. So
That is him and his element.
yeah, oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
and I'm not. I really don't. I mean, look, I like Trump on the teleprompter, but it's not his strength,
right,
right?
right.
That's the only thing Kamala Harris can do. You
Yeah.
get her off script, and it's just,
She's done. Yeah,
it's a disaster. Well, then you do get authenticity from her, and it's usually exposing some pretty nasty Marxist traits.
did you guys watch her interview or the town hall with Anderson Cooper? I heard it went terrible, but I didn't watch any of it. Did you guys see it?
I saw the Brett Bear.
Yeah, Brett Baer.
Yeah,
Yes,
Brett Baer.
but not-
Yesterday, Kamala did Anderson Cooper in a town hall.
I wish I would have seen it. Did
Yeah,
you
well,
see
I
it?
think it's on YouTube, and but I heard it didn't go that well. It was pretty bad. So but
Well, I'd like to watch that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
because it's just, you know, I got an email, a text from a buddy of mine today, and now he is a Democrat, and he helps me edit some of the essays I write
hmm
that I publish, articles I publish, and he's a great editor and he's a great friend, but he cannot understand why I'm voting for Trump. And I cannot understand why he's voting for Kamala. And he thinks Trump is such a danger. But the problem is, so he sent me this text that has 250 signatures of psychologists that say Trump is a danger because of his narcissism. And I'm like, did you see the 51 people, intelligence officers
yeah,
that signed the letter about the 100? I mean, this is just, it's so fake.
yeah.
And
Well, how many?
but you have
psychiatrists-
people like him
Yeah,
buying into it.
we met a couple of people at Trump's birthday party this year. We went down to Palm Beach and went to his birthday party he had down there, and about 6,000 people in the building. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, and this couple, his name is Tom Pappas, and the gal's name is Rachel something. They wrote a book, and it's called TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. They're both psychiatrists,
Oh, wow.
and it's on Amazon. And
Okay.
and it's very good, and it really they really look at it as a mental as a mental disease. It is actually something that is affecting people. And
Well, but it's affecting people because of the false narratives they've been
oh
fed.
yeah, sure,
If
yeah,
you weren't fed that information,
yeah,
because my friend is not stupid. As
Yeah.
a matter of fact, he went to Northwestern School of Journalism.
oh wow,
I mean,
Northwestern is no slouch.
that's right. No,
Yeah.
he's a smart guy.
Yeah,
And he's also happens to be Jewish. And again, I have a hard time understanding how really intelligent people could look at Kamala. Look, I can understand how one might not vote for Trump. I do. I can see that perspective.
Yeah.
I don't agree with them, but I can see it because he's already been president. We know the pros and cons, and a lot of great things happen.
Yeah.
But for the life of me, Don and Paul, I cannot understand why, especially after 4 years of Biden, that this is even a close race.
yeah, I know.
You know,
Well, from all indications and what I'm hearing out of Dan Bongino and some other people, it's turning out that it may not be a close race. That she might get a thumping on election day. So we're going to find out, I guess. I guess the early voting.
voted today. You can see on my shirt here.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah, we voted
Well,
Tuesday.
my
Jeff.
daughter, my 18-year-old daughter,
Yeah.
first-time voter,
All right,
and my wife.
good.
And we all voted. They have opened right at Oro Valley Library,
Was it
and
crowded?
it was packed.
Yeah, ours was packed too. Yeah,
Packed.
yeah.
I mean, it took an hour to get
Yeah.
through the line.
Yeah, people got the word out about voting early and in person. So,
Yeah.
bank your vote. No telling what they're going to run out of paper again in Arizona, right? That's
Now it's on the wrong size paper.
yeah, yeah. Whatever they do there. So what's the latest on Carrie Lake? You guys got any scuttlebutt on her?
Well, I don't have anything on Kerry, but boy, Ruben Gallego has ripped his britches a little bit with his divorce thing. He divorced his wife, Kate Gallego, who's the mayor of Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
And while she was 9 months pregnant, he served her with divorce papers, and that made a pretty big splash.
Wow.
One of the things that made it even a little more juicy, I guess if you'd say, is that under Arizona law, I understand it, you must file for a divorce in the county in which you live. They were both living in Maricopa County, and they filed for the divorce in Yavapai County. And it was sealed, and they're just now unsealing the divorce papers. The judge said that Gallego was saying, you can't unseal it because it will affect my son. And he also has a new girlfriend or wife in Washington. So all of that's kind of coming out now about him and his personal life, which is pretty shady.
So how could he go out to? How could he go to another county then and get divorced?
Well, there's the question, Don. He's a Democrat. They don't
Yeah.
have to follow the rules.
How about this thing with his dad, where he was working for the cartels?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. There was some pushback on Kerry Lake about saying that he was that Gallego, not a senior, the current running Raul, was associated with Colombian cartels.
Hmm.
Well, about his father, I guess, and this pushback came that no, his father was Mexican. He wasn't dealing with the Colombian cartels. And they came back and they said, well, where do you think the drugs came from? You're dealing with the Colombian cartels if you're bringing drugs into the United States. And I don't know where that leads or where that's going to go, but it has stirred the pot a little bit, I think.
I hadn't heard about the personal stuff, so that's very interesting. Anything you've heard, Jeff?
Well, the only thing I've heard is enough to have me modify my percentage chance of Kerry
Oh, good.
Lake winning.
It's up a little bit.
It's up a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, so it is up a little bit, and I just hope the word gets out enough. But we also know that it's very difficult sometimes to find these things out. Like Paul's in the know, you're in the know, I'm in the know.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's because we're looking. or also reading news clips from sources that are reliable to us, but it's not mainstream, and most people aren't getting it.
Yeah, sure. So how about the Arizona House and Senate? Are you hearing anything about any of those candidates? Are they going to hold the House and the Senate? Or
It's going to be so close.
yeah, well, it's already 1-1, right?
Yeah, we only have it by one. That's going to be one above my pay grade to predict.
I was kind of hoping. I hope Ken comes on, because I wanted to ask Ken. He might have some.
Yeah.
He might have some inside baseball on some of that. Well, I don't know. How about Juan Ciscomani? Is he going to hold on to his seat?
I think so.
Think so?
I think he will. Yeah, I do.
He's not a big fan of Trump, but
no, his district.
He is kind of hard on the border, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
But his district is, center, maybe even a little center left.
Yeah. Yeah.
Possibly a little.
They didn't help him out when they redrew it.
I think it's just pretty center. Yeah.
Pretty center. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's my rep,
And mine too.
okay. Well, I was just going to say, I got a thing today about in the mail from somebody Democrat said, why is Juan Ciscomani helping our enemies? And evidently he made a vote on some strategic materials, and I don't know what they were, but they were like rare elements or something like that. And his vote was with enough other votes to pass the bill that allowed the sale of this stuff to China, which is what they're using for their EV batteries and things like that, as best I can understand. And of course, they take this one vote out of 435, and make him, a traitor to the United States, effectively. And
well, but Paul, that was probably part of an omnibus bill. I mean, the problem is we don't,
Yeah. Well, that's why they do it. The Democrats write those kind of bills so that they suck some Republicans into voting for some of the stuff and they have to,
because they really want something.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want something, and they have to give something else. But I think it's time to try to. That's one thing I think they should really clean their acts up on.
Oh yeah, we've got to get the House back to regular order, and the 12 bills that they're supposed to write, to fund the government. We just have to stop these continuing resolutions. It's just ridiculous.
Yes.
Absolutely ridiculous. And any Republican that goes for that anymore, Johnson has to stop that. It has to be stopped. And he's the only one can stop it's the Speaker of the House.
Yeah, but he gets the idea, and then nobody will back him on it.
Yeah. Well, there's some people that'll back him, but
he needs beaucoup people to.
Yeah.
To back
There's a lot of weak needs. Yeah. Yeah, but we gotta stop it. I mean, did you see that David Schweikert email? I get his emails still. And
what he's saying, I didn't see it.
Well, he says
but
we took in 4.9 trillion and we spent 6.3 trillion last year.
Right. Well, David
we
Schweikert.
Can't keep doing this.
When I was, with Compact for America, which pushed for a convention,
convention
of the states specifically for a balanced budget amendment, and not an open convention, but specifically. David Schweikert was a huge proponent of that, and I really appreciate that of him. And so he is one of the few fiscal guys. But practically speaking, though, we all want a balanced budget amendment, but there's so many, especially in the the elderly generation, that if you try to balance it right now, it's going to be very difficult.
Oh yeah.
And people are going to have to be willing to sacrifice, but we're going to have to do it because my argument is the definition of slavery is when one person eats the bread of another person's labor without their consent. Or some of it, or soft slavery is at least some of it, and we're doing that to our children. And we all look down our noses at the slaveholders as being so evil. We need to look in the mirror, and I mean that.
Oh yeah, I know.
We put self-interest above what is right.
It's true. Have you guys heard of the penny plan?
Yeah,
Penny, I have not.
budget by a penny every year, and
Yeah.
But I think if I remember right, you're not reducing the budget, you're reducing the increase in the budget
Yeah.
that's going on, and yeah, that came out about what 12 years ago, something like that.
Yeah. It's been more than 10 years.
Yeah.
Um,
And it was a good idea because it really didn't thrust pain.
yeah. It didn't scare
painful.
everybody, right? It didn't
You know?
scare the heck out of everybody.
Yeah.
So tell me what it was. What was it again? I didn't hear that.
It was basically was a deal where when the budget came out, of course, this was back when they actually did a budget. Instead of the normal 3% or whatever inflation is, add on, in other words, $100 million for the Army, instead of 103 million next year because of 3% inflation, we did 102 million. And that was, they were out 100 million, $1 million or whatever, of course that's expanded to whatever number it is, but it was just a tiny enough cut to reduce the overall growth of the budget and the size of the deficit as it went on. And it carried a lot of weight, I thought, for a while there.
It did.
And then I guess somebody said they needed more campaign funds, and somebody who was given campaign funds said, we don't want to do that. And
Well,
everything
we got Democrats in control of the House, and we started these. We got in this continuing resolution thing, which is a disaster. I mean,
Well, but it starts early, because remember, in any government organization, if you don't spend your money, then you get it taken
Yeah.
for the year later.
yeah,
And so you've got to spend it by the end of the fiscal year. And really, the only way to grow your kingdom is to have more serfs.
Mhm.
So you've got to complain you don't have the resources. You've got to create, new lumber that you've got to nail nails into, and then have somebody take them out and nail them on the other side of the lumber.
yeah,
So you create, and I'm being a little facetious, but not really,
yeah.
because those are the incentives that our bureaucrats and administrators have to be able to grow their own kingdoms. They need more people under them. They
Right.
need a higher budget. So the whole system itself is kind of broken because we give the wrong incentives. We should have incentives for cutting budgets. We should have incentives for less people needed, for streamlining organizations.
Yeah. The penny
And that
plan.
doesn't exist.
The penny plan was you have budget for, and this would have been a terrific conversation with Ken because he's so good with the budget stuff. You remember have you ever seen his shoebox presentation?
No.
Anyway, we'll have him talk about that when he gets on sometime. Anyway, the penny plan, the idea was for every dollar of the new budget, you cut 1 penny for every dollar
Right.
in the budget. And this goes along not with the continuing resolution, but with the 12 required by law budgets that fund the United States government, right? There's supposed to
Right.
be 12 individual pieces to that. And so everybody cuts their portion, a penny on every dollar. And eventually within, I think it's 5 or 7 years, you're back to even again, believe it or not. It just works out that way. So I think Ron Paul was a big proponent of the penny.
Yeah, that sounds like something he would do.
Yeah, I think he was, even though he's out now. And well, that's good. Anything else you're hearing in Arizona about anything? How about you don't haven't heard anything about the state? Is your sheriff going to win her race? You look like. Have you heard?
Oh,
Boy, I think that's going to be tight. She sure should, though.
Yeah.
well, I don't know whether you discussed that Nanos put Lapin on administrative paid leave for some imagined reason. We don't know what it is yet. It has to do with her. She's in charge of the jail,
Yeah.
and she let some reporter in to talk to an inmate, and I couldn't, there was very little meat on the bones. Just the bone was thrown out there. She violated that. The head of the deputies union was also put on administrative paid leave because some of his people were carrying signs saying we don't need Nanos or Nanos is bad, and they were in tactical gear. Now they weren't wearing sheriff signs or badges or anything like that, but they had their tactical gear on. It's pretty obvious they were sheriff's deputies. It just didn't say so. But he thought that was a simple enough event to put the deputy union president on administrative leave. So his deputy chief and his rival are both on administrative leave now.
Wow.
Hoping that it works like when they filed charges against your friend over your shoulder there and boosted his popularity, 100%.
Yeah.
Do you think that's gonna hurt her or help her?
I just don't know. That's the scary part. It was this close to the election. It smells.
Yeah.
It smells really
Oh
bad.
yeah, yeah. Is anybody else in office? Any Republican come to her defense?
I haven't seen anything.
Haven't seen anybody, but she is a sharp woman. I'm telling you,
Yeah,
she would be a fantastic sheriff.
yeah.
And we need a change. We really do.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Are they still funding her campaign? Do you know? Is everybody still contributing or?
I have. I mean, I really like her, know, and
Well, I hope she wins for you guys. That would
in my group, that we meet monthly, I've had Juan Ciscomani come in, and a lot of my group doesn't like him, and they want somebody more conservative.
Yeah.
And so would I. But to be, but
He's a
to
good
be
fit for
elected, I don't know what Paul thinks, but you almost have to be kind of a moderate in that group.
Yeah.
Maybe, it's
Well, if you got a big chunk of Tucson, you do.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when Martha McSally first got elected, and it was that she was only elected for about 10 or 12 days before Barber came in, and they recounted and found some magic vote somewhere, and she had to come back from Washington, and Barber went up there to be the rep for Gabby Githers. And, but it was so interesting because I realized at that point, and some other information I've gotten, that you almost have to go along to get along up there. If you buck the system, especially like if you're a Republican and you buck the speaker who is a Republican, you don't get committee assignments. You don't get appropriation, capabilities, and you can't do a job for your constituents if you don't have the power, and you don't get the power if you don't play, footsie with the powers that be. And so it's kind of a self-defeating program.
Yeah.
It is.
Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I almost think, though, there's got to be a couple, like an Eli Crane. Eli does not play the game.
Yeah. Oh,
and I love him and respect him for it.
Did you know? Have you met him before in your training?
Oh, no, he did not go through my training,
okay.
but I knew him a long time before he was a congressman.
Okay.
When he owned his company,
right?
Bottle Breacher.
Okay.
But he is a man of character, and I do respect him and know guys who did serve with him. And but I do think we need examples like Eli that don't play the system. And I agree with Paul, to reach that, you do have to play the game. But I think there's got to be enough of these congressmen or women that come in there and say, I'm not playing the game,
right.
Because Paul's right. You do have to play it if you want to get appointed to committees, especially, but they're looking at raising money. Like, what have you done for the team lately?
Sure.
And if you don't do that or acquiesce, you don't get the positions. But at the same time, I don't want to speak for Eli, but I've heard him talk about, sometimes you've got to play the game, and it isn't in your best interest of your constituents. Yeah. In other words, the best interest is kicking back and calling people out. And I like the fact that he's not afraid to do that.
Yeah,
I really do. So
did I tell you guys about Matt Gaetz? We went to see Matt Gaetz here.
No, you did not.
Okay, we went to a meeting, one of the local meetings. It's called the MAGA Club, and they had Matt Gaetz down here. He was terrific. He was fabulous. I mean, he's just a ball of fire, and he doesn't go along with any of this stuff, And he takes no money from any PACs. So he was talking about it. He says it's interesting. You get up to Washington D.C. and you go to the freshman orientation, right? And the first thing they tell you is that if you want to get on the Judicial Committee, it's going to cost you $40,000.
Right. That's right.
If you want to get on the Homeland Security Committee, it's going to cost you $60,000, right? And all these prices came up on all these committees, right? So the next day they go to a big dinner with all the the people that are giving the money away, right? And all the big companies are there ready to pay everybody out, and that's where they get their money. You go to the dinner and then they give you the money so you can be on the committees you want to be on. So you're beholden to them,
Yeah.
almost from the start, right? And that's,
Oh,
I mean, that whole system is so wrong. And,
Yeah.
And,
Oh,
and
Eli was talking about getting on the commission to investigate the assassination attempt,
uh-huh,
the first one that
Yeah,
Trump
right.
got shot on. And, there's 3 snipers in Congress right now, special
Right.
forces snipers,
Right.
and Eli's one of them.
yeah, Corey Mills is one.
None of them were on that committee
Yeah,
to go up and, and check it out. But, there's political reasons, there's
oh, yeah.
X, Y, and Z, but that just kind of tells you, if you're on the outs, you're on the outs.
Yeah,
There's reasons, but it's not always merit based
That's
as
right.
far as
yeah,
who would be the best person. It's who's playing
yeah.
ball with others. So
Well, it's it's a tough business up there, and that's why I think that's why it's so hard to be a Donald Trump, because he's really not beholden to anybody, and that's what frustrates all those people up there.
well, but that's why so many people are kicking back.
Oh yeah.
So it's like an Eli Crane, a Donald Trump is going up there. He's not playing ball,
Right.
and people are threatened.
Yeah.
They're threatened that he's going to take away the gravy train, and
And he
I
will.
hope he does.
Yeah.
I hope he does.
Hey.
The thing is, I was hoping he would his first term,
Yeah.
but I think he earned enough, and he tried, and he did some.
Yeah.
But I think he'll be much more effective this
Yeah,
time.
I do too, and I think he's got a pretty good idea of who's going to be on his team now. Just with
Yeah.
Kennedy and what's her name that just became a Republican,
Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah, did you hear her the other night when she said she's a Republican now?
I did not.
Yeah, during one of his rallies, she says, "Well, I want everybody to know that I'm a Republican now." So that was pretty cool.
Wow.
And
Well,
Trump didn't know she was going to say it. So
really.
yeah. So
Well, my
anyway,
daughter
yeah,
went to see her at the University of Arizona. Her and Charlie Kirk,
yeah.
and she was the video for people asking questions. She was right behind that person asking questions the whole time, so you could see her. It was just magnificent.
Yeah.
It was really.
Yeah, she's
Going back to
she's
what
gonna-
we were talking about a little bit earlier,
Go ahead, Paul.
somebody made the suggestion that our congressmen and senators should wear jumpsuits with their contributors so sewed on them like NASCAR drivers,
Yeah,
big patch
I've heard
Chevrolet
that.
and a smaller one for MAGA wheels, and
Yeah.
and just we know who owns them that way, and it'd be easier to keep control that way.
Yeah. No, I heard that little story. Yeah. I thought that was a good idea. So, you guys have any? Are you hearing any scuttlebutt about Florida? Supposedly, the story's out nationally that Rick Scott's in trouble. I don't know if you've heard that.
Oh,
He's
I
not.
have.
He's not. he's
Okay.
Yeah, it's that's a bogus story. Rick Scott's going to win easily, and Trump's going to crush in Florida. So,
Yes. Yeah.
and
Florida's the least of my worries.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why, because I've been following Florida because
yeah.
we got you on to watch our back.
Well, all these crazy stories that come out, and I'm down here, so I'm kind of watching what's going on down here, and they slip in the same stuff they slip in everywhere else, some bogus story about something, and all this bad stuff that Rick Scott's doing is just unbelievable. So, but he's not going to lose, and Ted Cruz is not going to lose in Texas either. I mean,
I don't think so.
no, they're pushing that real hard, trying to make people believe that, but that's not going to happen either. So,
I kind of think, and this is me off the cuff, as goes Pennsylvania, so goes the nation.
yeah,
And I know that's scary. because Pennsylvania did not adhere to their own voting rules last time.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
we
that's right.
also know Philadelphia has a history of corruption.
Oh yeah, big time.
And so in me saying that, I'm a little scared in saying that.
Well,
But
that's the reason that you know that, and I pretty much watch Bongino every day, or catch his show later in the day if I don't watch
Yeah.
it live. But he believes that this early voting is going to really frustrate the Democrats in their plans to try to cheat, because they're not going to be able to overcome the early vote. If we're 6 or 8 points ahead on election day already, they can't overcome that. It's impossible. And if they even tried, it would be so obvious. It would be, it would just be obvious that they.
yeah, but see, that's my problem. It doesn't matter if it's obvious. It was obvious to everybody who could see
Yeah.
that Biden was becoming more incompetent than he started out.
Oh yeah.
But nobody cares.
Yeah.
It is obvious that having men and women's sport is totally unfair.
Oh yeah.
No, it's ridiculous. It's obvious that young men or women it should not be their choice prior to the age of maturation and self-governance, that you'd be making those decisions. So that's why, and I love Bongino, but that's why it doesn't matter
Yeah.
if it's obvious or not.
Yeah. Yeah, well, as far as manufactured votes, it would be obvious for them to overcome such a big lead. So
Yes, yeah. Well, then what would we do about it?
well, I guess that's the question, right? What would we
Then
do
what
about
would
it?
we do about it?
Yeah.
But that's when we worry about violence.
And Florida has everything counted by 10:30, 11 o'clock. Everything's done. We're done on election day. And
And
that,
Beautiful.
yeah,
The
that should be
Maricopa Elections Office came out today and said it would be 10 to 13 days after the 5th
And
for
why?
the output.
Why?
the outcome.
Why is that so? Why should that be so?
I guess it's because getting those dadgum ballots all the way from New Jersey in those big trucks takes a while. I don't know.
Paul, you're saying that was Arizona saying that?
Yeah, the deputy elections officer for Maricopa County.
Yeah, how is that even remotely excusable?
Yeah.
We've had
It-
4
It's not.
years.
It's just like you said, Jeff. Who's going to do something about it?
Yeah.
We're going to get the governor to say that they can't do that. The governor's waiting for those votes for himself.
The governor's probably driving the truck down to the elections with the
Yeah, but
ballots.
the problem is, though, we had time after the 2020 election with a Republican House and Senate
Yeah.
and a Republican governor to straighten this stuff out.
Yeah.
And we didn't do it. I mean, I wrote some articles and sent them to our representatives
Yeah.
about while it's fresh on our mind, let's talk about what went wrong with COVID
Yeah.
and how we need to change emergency powers.
Yeah.
And 4 years later, now we have a proposition discussing emergency powers.
Yeah.
Why and why was it a proposition? Why didn't we handle that with Ducey,
Mm-hmm.
with the Republican legislature?
Because he was the biggest violator.
Well, absolutely.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
but we had a chance, and so it just didn't seem like we were making the main thing the main thing.
Right. Well, that's absolutely. And then
You know?
when they do, Jeff, they put it off till they say we can't do that. We have to wait till the next session, right? So that's always,
Right, no.
That's always the other excuse.
And part of it is bandwidth, because the guys we send, and I also am conflicted on this. The guys we send and ladies to the Arizona legislature, they get paid next to nothing. Okay, and it's great to have part-time people being in our legislature,
Yeah.
but at the same time, they, most of these people have other jobs and things they have to do.
Yeah.
So who can bring to bear their full attention on actually what needs to happen? So, there's an argument, the old argument at the founding, like Benjamin Franklin said, look, if we make these high offices of prestige, places of fortune, then you will have the greatest knaves and, frauds in the world trying to get both fame and fortune.
He was
And we've
actually-
seen that to be the case.
Oh yeah.
And so, if you take away one of those two, either the fame or the fortune, maybe you'll get more people involved that are doing it out of the goodness of their heart. And we do have that in Arizona, but the problem with it is, it does come with some type of not necessarily fame, but respectability and these
Yeah.
types of things.
Yeah.
Definitely not the fortune, unless they're doing something I'm not aware of.
Well,
But who can bring all their guns to bear, so to speak, on dealing with the problems? And
Yeah.
it's very difficult.
so do you think Trump is going to win Arizona?
I do.
Good. How about you, Paul?
I'm hoping. I keep seeing signs, but I got neighbors next door, the next door down, with Republicans for Harris Walls and
Oh, come on.
Harris Walls flags, and
Serious.
I just
Green Valley's always been a little flaky.
Yeah, well, maybe so. I don't know, but I know the Republican club is very strong here, and the Sahuarita. I mean, the Quail Creek Republican club seems to be pretty strong too. So, but I don't know about the rank and file.
He's supposed to be up by 5 or 7% in Arizona in the internal polling. So, yeah, I mean it's important.
Yeah,
They said right now he's got a lead in Nevada, possibly pretty close in New Mexico, Virginia. He's leading in Pennsylvania. And I think one of the national polls, which I don't pay much attention to, but they've got Trump up by 2 now, so which is a big change. Which is a big change.
Well, look, that would bring a lot more confidence back to me of the American people being able to think.
Yeah.
And again, I do understand how people have trouble with Trump, but I think most of that is because of false narratives.
Yeah.
Not all, but I do think most of it is because of, false narratives. Now, has he set his own traps? Yes, he has.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That is true. But if it weren't for the false narratives abounding, then I think it would be a landslide
Yeah.
for, so.
Yeah, well, like I said, he's going to crush it in Florida, so we're not concerned down here, about.
Yeah, well,
about the
Virginia
presidential
concerns
race.
too.
Yeah,
Virginia is a big
Well,
state that
Youngkin's pretty popular, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So and he's campaigning for Trump this year, which he didn't do in 2020. So
Right.
that should help Trump out. Yeah.
Well, outside of the DC, Northern Virginia, I would think Virginia would go heavily for Trump.
Yeah.
But you do have that influx, of, blue state people coming in, just like you do in Arizona. I mean, that's what threatens Arizona,
Yeah.
the big cities and the influx of blue state people coming in.
So let's see what other states should we? Did anybody hear anything
No.
about any of the other so-called swing states? Wisconsin.
Well,
Heard anything
Wisconsin's a big one.
Yeah.
Michigan. Yeah.
I think
Minnesota, I
Ohio's
think
going to
we
go
do.
for Trump again.
What's
Just-
that?
Ohio's going to go for Trump again just
Oh,
because of
yes.
J.D. Vance. Yeah,
Right.
their favorite son there. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting. We're down to 12 days now. So
Yeah, it comes quick, doesn't it?
It does. It comes quick now, and I can tell you, Patty is counting the days because she really wants Trump to win.
Well, but the other thing I think we should get out to our listeners is I do believe that people should be prepared
Yeah.
for the worst.
Exactly.
And prepared for the worst in that Harris wins, but also prepared for the worst in whoever wins, that things kind of break down socially.
Yeah, they're going to
So,
break down. Yeah.
And I think the likelihood of that is greater than the likelihood of it not.
Yeah.
I hate to say that. In whatever form that is it going to be low grade or is it going to accelerate? I think depends a lot on the political leadership
Yeah.
of the state, local state leaders and governors that
Obviously.
need a lot better than they did back in 2020.
There's going to be,
So,
there'll certainly be trouble in some of the blue states when Trump wins.
yes.
Oregon,
big.
Oregon, you got a big Antifa bunch down there.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that
but the
kind of
other
stuff.
thing we need to be aware of, Don, is not only organically grown troublemakers, but foreign actors
Mhm,
because of the
yeah,
open border. I mean, and the FBI, I think, seems to have seeded. It's one thing to be amongst the, those protesting and that, but it's another thing to actually either cause it to happen or encourage it to happen.
yeah. Yeah,
And it almost seems like it just doesn't seem like the federal government, to me, morally should be doing that.
of course
You
not.
know,
Yeah,
it just doesn't seem. But I sure hope there's not state actors,
right.
pushing this along. But my fear is that we've had enough illegal terrorists and foreign actors coming across.
Yeah.
And it'd be naive to say that some of them don't have orders. Like, look, if there's an opportunity to stir the pot, we want you to.
Right.
We want you to encourage this and be the first person to shoot or break a glass.
Mm-hmm.
Because that great book about crowds. The people are willing to do things in crowds and anonymity much more than they are on their own.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what that. Yeah.
Mob mentality is a really tough thing to overcome. Once
Did you
the
guys- have you
crowd
guys-
starts moving.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Paul.
I was just going to say, once the crowd starts moving and somebody throws that first brick,
Yeah.
the individual brain goes into mob thought,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
they pick up something and throw it, and somebody else sees that and they pick up something and throw it. And pretty
Yeah.
soon you've got a really tough program on your hands, and you've got our police departments have all been decimated by this defund the police thing.
Yeah.
Sahuarita still got road signs up saying we're hiring police officers.
Yeah.
Nobody wants the job, and so I think, and then this boiling that we've got going on right now, Jeff, you're talking about. I see a civil unrest regardless of who wins. I just see it. I think it's going to be worse in blue states if Trump wins, but it may get bad in red states if Kamala picks up the crown. Because,
But I think we need to be the peacemakers. We need to be
Right.
those trying to ratchet down. I wanted to make sure I commented. I got a call from one of the higher ups in the Republican Party in the state. And the question was, what happens when Kamala Harris refuses to certify the Electoral College votes? Okay. And I said, okay, where did that question come from? And this is one of the and I get a little angry with this question because, Pence had no authority to negate
Right.
the Electoral College votes unless the Senate and the House both questioned the state,
Right.
and neither does Harris.
Right. She doesn't have any. Yeah.
The person who called me was getting all this constitutional advice from constitutional experts that didn't know what they were talking about.
So did
like,
you set
well,
them straight?
I did, absolutely.
Good.
And I said, look, she doesn't have the power or authority, and neither did Pence.
Right.
Laid out the 1887 Electoral College Act that we are still under obligation to follow because that's the law of the land,
Yep.
the Constitution and the Electoral College Act. And so until Congress changes it, either by amendment or a new Electoral College Act that clarifies some things in the 12th Amendment, then that's the way we do it.
Yep.
Could it go back to the states? Yes, it could. But, that's if nobody wins a majority of the Electoral College votes, and then it would go to the states.
Yeah.
But other than that, Kamala Harris does not have the authority. It'll be very interesting to see how many of our left-wing friends all of a sudden think that she does when they were hollering, Pence did.
Yeah. 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 That
well,
will
let
be.
me ask this, Jeff. Let's just say that you're right, and I assume that you are, that she has no authority to not certify the election, because basically what she's doing is certifying 50 certifications, right?
Yeah, well, in the 12th Amendment, it says that the vice president shall, it doesn't say may. And the Electoral College Act didn't clarify that only with the majority vote of both houses of Congress could the vice president have the authority to do that.
Okay. Well, see, my concern is, down in Cochise County, we had 2 board supervisors threatened with arrest and incarceration if they didn't certify what they believed was an illegal or a fraudulent election. And they were told, you will certify this or we will come and pick you up and put you in jail. And I'm worried about the legality of certifying something that you in your heart don't believe is true. I mean, it's like swearing to God that you're going to do a good job and obey the Constitution when you know you're not. So,
well, but Arizona law has, if the votes are certified by the legislature and signed by the governor, then it's shipped off to the federal government. Okay, and if the Senate or the House then question how that's done here, they could kick it back, but they have to both do it. But the state, if there's questions about that particular county sending in their votes, the state should handle that before they send it off. So but we have those fail-safe systems. First, the county's supposed to do it and send it to the state, and then the state is supposed to reconcile any problems the county has, right?
Right.
And then we have a last fail-safe system of the federal government, the House and the Senate being able to question the state if there's too many shenanigans. So, but look, if it goes through 3 different sifts and it's not caught, I don't know what else you're going to do except appoint a dictator, and that's not our system.
No. Now, have you heard of the Brunson case?
What's that?
The Brunson case?
Okay.
It's working its way. Supposedly, it's been granted cert by the Supreme Court. This was a suit. The 3 brothers, they're musicians for some reason, but that's what they do. But the Brunson brothers filed suit against the federal government, against Congress, and some certain people in it, because their suit contends that there were questions about the 2020 election, and that certain congressmen were supposed to object to it under the rules of the, and they didn't object to it, and rolled into all this is the January 6th.
Right. They didn't have time to really debate it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the question, their suit says, regardless of January 6th and the confusion and everything else, those people had an obligation if they had a question, and they did because they'd already admitted that they had a question about the election, but they didn't make that objection on the floor of the Senate or the House.
Right.
And so they're suing them politically and individually for failing in their duty to protect the American people from a fraudulent election.
And that's still moving along?
Yeah, last I heard, it had been accepted by the Supreme Court.
Oh my gosh.
Interesting.
That will be interesting. And here's the more interesting part of that. What if the Supreme Court says, my God, you're right, that election's null and void, and Joe Biden wasn't president for the last 4 years?
Yeah, I think it would be from this point forward type of thing.
Well, you're probably right, but it sure leaves a big hole in our government.
Could be retroactive. So here's some things that I picked up this week. That I want to send these to you guys, or give them to you, read them to you. I didn't know if you heard about General Flynn getting kicked off of Facebook.
Didn't hear that. Yeah.
I heard something of that. Yes.
Yeah. Everybody's kind of shaking their head, wondering what's going on 2 weeks before the election.
Just the same old idiocy.
Yeah. And I sent out a Tea Party email this week, and I kind of asked everybody, what is it about Facebook that conservatives continue to participate in Facebook? And yet,
exactly.
And yet Facebook just keeps slapping them in the face and smacking down people and interfering.
Well, I think we just feel like that's where we're going to get our message out to the people that we want to convince.
Oh, I understand.
That's really it.
I know. I know. In some cases, I'm on Facebook so I can get the messages from a group that handles the Ubon Thailand reunion meetings every year. All their messaging comes out on that thing. So that's the only reason I'm there. I don't put anything on it. I don't write anything, and I don't put any other pictures on it. So
Yeah.
everybody comes on and says they want to
Probably
be friends.
smart.
Well, that's fine. You can be friends, but I'm just not going to do anything. So,
Right.
but anyway, I just asked that question. Now here's another thing. Did you hear about the bombshell report where turns out Kamala did a bunch of plagiarism when she was
Yes.
the San Francisco DA
Yes.
on her cases? Okay, so
And
there's
but that's hard to find.
yeah.
It's another mainstream media interference because that came out through Rufo, from what I understand, Chris Rufo. He's the one that did the research on that.
Yeah.
And but that, where have you seen it in the mainstream?
No, that Jeff, he's the one that researched about the book that she wrote.
Okay.
Plagiarism in the book. This has to do with her. She actually wrote about cases in San Francisco that were fake. They didn't really happen to make the office look better. Okay.
Yeah.
They're digging all
So
that. They're digging all that up now. So
yeah.
there's more than just the book. So I guess that's about. And I wanted to mention about Schweikert and his 4.9 trillion taken in on receipt, and they spent 6.75 trillion dollars. So
that's why gold's at $2,700.
Yeah, and hasn't silver taken a big chunk?
Silver's up to 33.
Yeah.
What's that?
33.36, I think was what I saw today.
There you go.
But I'm surprised. I'm not surprised gold's up there, but I'm surprised silver is still that low.
Yeah.
To be honest, because historically, if you're going 20-1,
right?
Historically, silver should be up in the 50s at least.
Yeah.
Gold is where it's at. So
now the last thing I'm going to mention, and I know you might want me to bring this up, but I know Arizona had a homecoming game last week, and Colorado beat their pants off. So we're not going to apologize for doing that.
Well, Arizona was pretty good a year ago.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
We lost their coach and we lost key players.
Yeah, it's too bad their coach jumped. That's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Seekers, and the guy that went to Alabama from Washington, he's having all kinds of problems now. And and so Fitch went up to, what was his name? Fitch, wasn't it? Jed Fitch.
Yes. Yeah, that sounds
right. He went up
right.
to Washington, and I don't know how Washington's doing. Are they?
I haven't kept track.
Yeah. So anyway, we're happy with the win, and you guys press on and win the rest of your games. And, yeah.
Yep. So I did. So you're a Buffalo?
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. So
yeah.
you've got. Oh, what is the nickname of the head coach?
Prime, Coach Prime.
Yeah, Prime.
Deion Sanders. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he is something, man. He's
something. The best thing about him is he's such a good Christian.
Yeah.
He really is. And if
he's optimistic.
Yeah. He writes his daily message on Instagram every day. He's really quite a motivator, and he's tougher than people think, but he's a very interesting guy. Yeah. He's not anything like I expected when I saw him as a player,
Yeah.
He's not the flamboyant thing that he was when he was a player, So,
I remember watching him because when he played was when I was still watching the NFL.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't watch it, but I just, I that's one thing I used to really enjoy watching the NFL.
Yeah, I know, I did too.
And they probably have regained some viewers and
a little bit,
gotten, but it just isn't the same. No, it's like not. It's just there's the magic for me, and I wish I could get it back. Yeah, I really, But
well, I don't have a team I can follow. I was never a fan of the Denver Broncos. I was a fan of the old Baltimore Colts with Johnny Unitas, right?
Yes. Well, when
they moved to Indianapolis, I wrote them off. So I've never had a team since then.
Well, the Redskins. Well, Baltimore Colts, my grandfather designed and built Baltimore Memorial Stadium.
Oh, wow.
And he is in the movie when they tore it down. And I have a brick. And I have the original rendering of the stadium.
How cool is that?
And it's very cool. And so he had a box there for years and years,
Yeah.
Johnny Unitas and all that.
Oh yeah.
But then the Washington Redskins were also some of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
So I lost Baltimore when they went to
and
Indianapolis.
then they renamed
And I
it.
lost the Redskins when they changed their name
Yeah,
because
the
it was just
Commodores, right?
what
The Commodores,
the
Commanders,
Commanders, I think it is.
Commanders. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like Cleveland Indians now are the, what are they called now? They got some weird name. I didn't even know who was playing in the baseball playoffs.
And I love Cleveland Indians. They are such their culture is so great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their coach, their coach is from Tucson. It used to be their general manager,
Mm.
Tito.
Yeah.
And and the way they bring things on in a shoestring budget and how competitive they've been.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just love those guys. And what's funny? I'll just tell, since we're on the Washington Redskins, I had a friend that's a Cowboy fan, and he thought anybody who liked the Redskins was a racist because
yeah.
of that name. And but I think his Cowboys and Indians, the Cowboys hate the
Right.
and so they changed their names. And he was so adamant about, well, go ask these Native Americans if they're offended. And I was driving to Colorado and went to northern Arizona and was driving on one of the back roads in the
Yeah.
Indian reservation.
The Navajos.
And
Yeah.
in the front of the high school, there was a big sign, the Redskins, and it was the Washington Redskins football thing.
Yeah.
And it was right there called the Redskins.
Yeah.
And I drove past and I was like, I couldn't believe it. I'm driving at 50. I got people behind me or I would have slammed on the brakes, and gone and take a picture, but no joke. And it's just like, look, and now I heard there are some Native American tribes that are actually suing to get the name back. I read an article on
Yeah.
that. And why wouldn't it be? It's a to me, I mean, it's like James T. Harris. It's, our good friend and conservative commentator who happens to be black.
Yeah.
And in his comments, it's racist if you want it to be.
Right.
If you can find a way to make anything. But I don't know. I always thought it was an honor. It was honoring the Native American tribe.
I never heard that they were offended by it, And
Well,
and the Cleveland Indians. What's wrong with the Cleveland Indians?
Well,
What's
you
racist
guys,
about that?
what you guys are talking about is perfect example, because no team wants to be the New York Sheep or
Yeah, that's right.
the
Or the
Tulsa
Chicago
Gophers.
pushover.
Yeah, Indians, man, that's strong. We've had to fight them tooth and nail to get to California.
The
And there's a lot
Chicago
of-
pushovers.
That's right.
I like that.
But what you got to
Yeah,
appreciate,
LA doormats. We could come up with a lot of fun ones there.
my wife is a Saints fan, and she's more of a Saints fan than anything else in the world. I'm telling you.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, she grew up in New Orleans. Not grew up in New Orleans. She moved to New Orleans when she had her first child and
Yeah.
lived there for 20 years and watched the Saints come from from out of obscurity to the point where I don't know if they used to call them the Aints,
Yeah.
and people would wear paper bags over their heads to go to the
Yeah, I
game. But
remember those
they were
days.
strong fans, but they didn't want anybody to know they were. strong.
That is so funny.
Boy, and
Oh,
did they get cheated out of a Super Bowl too.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Man,
they
I'm
did.
telling you, that was one of the worst. And that I don't know if you guys watched Georgia, Texas last Saturday night.
I did not. No.
Fabulous game, but
Really?
Georgia just whooped up on Texas. Texas was number one, right? But they made a call in that game. They called pass interference on Texas, and the crowd went wild and started throwing stuff on the field, right?
Oh my
And
gosh.
so there was stuff all over the field, and they started picking it up, and the Texas coach went over and told people to stop. But while that was going on, it delayed the game long enough. The referees all got together and reversed that call.
Oh,
Took it off
really?
the board. And that gave Texas 7 points. Now they lost 30-15, so it really
Okay.
didn't make a lot of difference. But really rewarding the crowd for doing what they did.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have changed the call just because of that. If I were the head referee, I'd say we're not going to reward these people for
Right.
trashing this field, right?
Right.
And so
That's
it was
tough.
very interesting.
I read many years ago that used armored personnel carriers are usually parked at the soccer fields in Central and South America for the referees to run hide in when they take a
Yeah.
bad call.
Oh my God. Yeah, they take soccer pretty seriously down
They take it very seriously.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, we'll cut it off here, and thanks for
All
coming
right.
on this week. I just got a call from Ken, so he probably missed the right time or whatever, but I'm sure he'll be on with us next week. Next week's a big show because we're going to be 4 days away from the election day. So whatever you learn or hear or catch on to the next week, bring it next week, and thanks for coming on this week, both of you. Really appreciate it. It's good to see you guys.
Good to see you guys.
I'm glad you had a safe trip. God bless everybody.
Thank
Don't
you
forget
all.
to subscribe and like and check on the show. We'll be on Friday night. Okay, God bless everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Take care.